window here now. Got some real natural light going on. So it's kind of exciting. It's kind of cool. So yeah, there we go. I'm happy to see you guys. I'm excited to contribute today to your journey beyond codependency. I sat with today's topic for quite some time because I didn't know what I wanted to speak on. I just knew I wanted to connect with you, wanted to reach out, wanted to show up, right? Have some consistency in the world with today's chaos and everything that's going on. What came to me is going to be more from my own personal experience lately in discovering more of who I am beyond my own codependency, beyond my own programming, getting more in contact with that. So I'll be talking about being flooded and handling overwhelm, and then getting honest with our own personal awareness. So, if you're new to me, because a lot of you are new to me right now, I'm Marshall Burtcher, and I help codependents get unstuck in their healing so that they can be happy and have their wellness and their well-being back in their life. I'm going to share this out to the community real quick. The community is your safe haven from the chaos, from the doubt, from the crazy making that exists in the world around narcissistic abuse and codependency. It's where you can find support, love, and shelter, tools and guidance that'll assist you in you actually healing and breaking free of your codependency, because that is what I do. So I gotta push some buttons here, and another button. They move things around. Drives me crazy. All right, and boom. All right, so good morning, guys. Let me know in the comments below how you are, how things are going for you, and what your thoughts are on all this. I try to look at these things as a conversation. Though it seems to be like, with the way Facebook works and all that, it's a little more slow or one-sided on that. So let's start with getting honest with our awareness. So it starts with codependency. We are programmed with certain kinds of expectations. We're programmed with ideals and what we think we should be. We are given the responsibility of showing up as a particular person so that other people will love, like, and keep us. The big goal in codependency is to avoid being discarded, being rejected, being disposed of, because early on we learned that our worth, our value, was contingent on their approval, and we confused approval with love, and that really isn't our fault, because frankly we're growing up in a transactional system, and that leads us to conform to other people's expectations. Whether those expectations are real or imagined, whether they're expectations we assume they have, whether they're expectations they've overtly communicated to us, or even covertly or passive-aggressively or inadvertently communicated to us. We tend to absorb these things as a set of rules that we follow in order to get love and approval from someone. And this leads us to becoming disconnected from our awareness, from our own intuition, our own brilliance, our own insight into things. Now, last night I was teaching class 5 of the happiness strategy, which is also known as the Discover You course. We were getting into the 3 voices, and the three voices are, you've got programming, you've got the voice of other people, and then you have a true voice. And this really builds on this function of awareness, the idea that we have an intrinsic knowing that we can tap into about things. We have a sense of things. These are things that we find in our body, that we understand within us. They're not necessarily analytical. They're not something that our brain gives us. It's something that we are aware of here in our physicality, in our body. It's somatic. And getting honest with that awareness is what is part of the major element of healing from codependency is about. Because in codependency, we've got fantasy. We've got these ideals we've internalized about who we're supposed to be and who others are supposed to be, who others could be. We call that the fantasy of potential. And this leads us into strange lands. It gets us lost in things that are not working for us. They get us lost in ideals that don't function for us, that don't control you, or that control you and that don't feed or nurture you. In other words, we end up becoming something foreign to ourselves. And then we wonder why we're lost. We wonder why we're unhappy. We wonder why we're empty. And that's because we're not in symbiosis with our path in life. When I say path, I don't mean purpose. I don't mean intent. Because it's a lot of times that's what people think path is. Real path, genuine path, isn't something that's obvious. It's something you see behind you. So it's a lot like, if you ever walk through a field and there's no path, so you're just walking through it, you turn around and you see a path, right? The path that you made by going through the field. Well, that's what life is. We all have an individual path that we're blazing forward. We're creating the path. We discover the path as we discover ourselves. And we don't usually have a big insight as to what the end point will be. We have a desire, often, of what that'll be. But we don't know exactly what that'll look like. And we don't know how that's going to happen. Sometimes, most of the time, we don't even know if it's going to happen. And that is normal. All of us face this challenge going forward, is defining the path and following it, discovering it as we move forward. Now, codependency, we're off on someone else's path. They're telling us what to do in their territory, and we don't know what it means. We don't understand it. It's a foreign land to us, foreign language. This is why we're not happy. This is why we're lost. This is where we need to make the change. And so when I talk about coming into honesty with our awareness, it's really about slowing things down and really acknowledging what is there for us emotionally. Because that's where the wisdom starts. It's like, what do I sense about this thing or this person or this opportunity? Your brain's going to give you all sorts of chatter. It's going to show up and it's going to be like, it's going to be this and it's that and it's this. And this is where this overwhelm and being flooded comes into it. Because overwhelm and flood, at least in my experience, is dominantly the result of considering things outside my path. It's usually about trying to get someone's approval or avoid someone's rejection. The fatal trap of judgment right there. We got to get out of that. And we got to start trusting in our path. Trusting in how we show up. Trusting in the validity of the way we do things, of how we do them, how we understand them, and trusting in that what we have to offer also matters. And part of that offering is just who we are. I wrestle with this a lot because I'm not a therapist. I don't have a degree from a collegiate university telling people that I know what I'm doing. I was initiated as a shamanic practitioner. I went through 2 years of apprenticeship in that and 2 years as a relationship coach under a relationship therapist. So I wrestle with this idea of qualification a fair bit because integrity and honesty matter. Effectiveness is built on those principles, and effectiveness is like the thing for me in business. It's like, I do this because it works. If it doesn't work, then something needs to change. But I get lost in other people's expectations. I get into their field, into their yard. So I've got to come back to me and start trusting my path, trusting how I show up, trusting my capability. Not based on just some frivolous trust, like, oh yeah, I have faith in myself. It's more like, well, what results does my work produce? What are the results I'm enjoying in my life because of the work I've done for myself? What are the results clients and students are getting? My family getting, my children, the people in my life. Because that can help guide me. That can help me understand if I'm aligned with my path. Because my path is going to bring me and others to results that matter for them and matter for me. So I hope this is making sense because it's impromptu. Usually I have these things scripted out in my brain, but this one I'm just kind of winging it with. So let's see, I got some, oh, hi Jordan. If you can't hear me, check your device because it is broadcasting and others are hearing me, so remember there. Hi, Rita. It's nice to see you. Hi, Jasmine. Hi, Satori. Thank you. I hope my wisdom is good. It's just me doing me things. Jasmine asks, where did you get your shamanic training? I actually trained. Actually trained under shaman. His name is Robert Wuduwan. You can go to sevenhawks.com. That is his website. Did that training between 2008 and 2010, so about 2 years of work there. All right. And the relationship therapist I mentored under, his name's Robert Bilton. He's not online anymore. He retired a number of years ago, so I don't know if you'd be able to find him. And I've not been able to find him since he's retired. So, yeah. So when we get back to path, a lot of this is about trust in our nature and what we have to contribute rather than what people expect. This is a rub. Guys, when we step beyond codependency, we're stepping out of that approval rejection trap and we're stepping into difference. We're stepping into conflict with expectation, which means we're gonna get haters. We're gonna get people who don't understand us. We're gonna get people who disagree with us. We are going to rock the boat just by being ourselves. Now, our goal here, there's a couple goals in this, the way I approach it. So when we're working like in the Discover You or Happiness Strategy, or even From Addiction to Connection courses, and we're working at the deep levels of codependency and rewriting who we are and reconnecting back with our true essence, there's this concept that we need to develop what's called capacity. We got to build capacity to feel, first of all. Feel our pain, acknowledge our pain, legitimize it, and allow it to integrate. And we also got to build capacity for difference. Now, there are differences that deserve intolerance. I'll be real blunt there. Any difference that would harm another human being, would put them in camps or cages, that would threaten their livelihood, their like survival, that's a difference that needs to be destroyed. That's an intolerable in my book. So we're talking about racism, we're talking about genocide, we're talking about concepts of nationalism, things like that. Those things are toxic. They're destructive to the well-being of people. Now, difference in the point of view of what is personal truth, then that deserves to have capacity given to it, meaning space. Like, okay, we see things differently there. As long as it doesn't lead to the harming of another human being, enjoy your difference, right? Have fun with it. But as codependents, exiting the codependent paradigm, we need to build capacity and tolerance for difference. Part of that difference includes people disagreeing with your position, disagreeing with your choices, disagreeing with your actions. Now, if your actions are not actively harming anybody, right? You're not violating their body, their mind, their soul, their spirit, their territory in some way. They get to disagree with it, and you can safely move forward. You don't have to worry that you're harming anybody by doing you. That's the key here. Difference that harms needs to be confronted. Difference that's just difference because we have a different point of view, get used to it. So, building capacity for difference allows us to acknowledge our path, and it gets us out of overwhelm because now we don't have to please or conform to other people's expectations. Instead, we need to align and respect our wisdom, our intuition, our sense of things. We need to build trust in this. This is where I wrestle. I've been doing a lot of self-trust work over the last 90 days, and self-trust keeps reducing in me to this simple thing of, am I willing to trust that I can deal with the consequence? When I go in that direction, this opens so much up for me, because in my codependency, I feared the consequence because the consequence was my life. It was love. It was relationships. It was social inclusion. Was at threat if I didn't do the thing that I thought they wanted me to do or they overtly expected me to do. So it's no wonder we are anxious and scared about being ourselves or doing our thing. Because doing our thing got us punished. Now, punishment was often the withdrawal of love and inclusion, which is a terrifying prospect, especially for a child. And that's how I grew up. Everything was contingent on the approval of the parent. And I'm like, screw it. I don't want this. But I needed it. I couldn't survive without it. So I became divided against myself. Choose mom, pa's approval, or myself. Can't have both. That's a toxic situation. That's what narcissistic, unhealthy, even dogmatic individuals create. Because they're trying to shape a person to their expectations rather than receiving the person as they are and then building capacity for understanding in the difference and celebration in the sameness and in the complementary differences that exist in relationships. So this is what I mean by path. This is what I mean by getting honest with your awareness. What is real for you right now? Maybe you're in a relationship and you're just kind of like, I need to leave. Maybe you're in a healthy relationship and you're like, I gotta face some things about this. I gotta step up more. I've gotta ask more. I've gotta advocate a little more. I gotta share me a little more. There's that. I often focus on the toxic angle, of helping us get out of those dynamics, helping you guys see that because it's a complex thing. But there's this other angle. It's the healthy side. And it's me showing up healthy. Like, I need to show up more for me. I need to share me more. I need to give them, the healthy person that has a persistent pattern of behavior that's trustworthy, give them the benefit of the doubt. Allow them in a little more. That's part of what path does. That's what part of this awareness is a self-honesty that says, I gotta look at this. I gotta confront this. What are you aware of in your life right now that you are bypassing, that you are ignoring, that's calling to you, that's in your heart, that's in your gut, that's saying, we need to look at this. We need to get honest with this with ourselves. And sometimes it's going to scare you shitless. A lot of times it has for me. It's led to enormous changes for my life. I mean, I left the religion of my youth. I left the social system I grew up there. And I grew up in that. I left the career I had built. And I left a marriage. I moved. Started an entirely different career with this awareness. And now, I'm 12 years on that path. And even now, this morning, actually, more awareness came in about those decisions made 12, 13 years ago. And how I need to confront those elements and bring love into that space and honesty with myself into those spaces so I can navigate more fully from a present state now. It's a continual practice, my badass friends, of coming back to us. Because in codependency, we have this thing called external orientation. We are configured, programmed to reference ourselves through things outside of ourselves, to see ourselves through the eyes of other people, basically. We need to start seeing through our own eyes and referencing ourselves and then making honest, consistent, at least loyal choices from that. So awareness, how does it show up? How do we know what an awareness is? It's a sense. It's typically not highly emotional, but sometimes your emotions are part of that awareness. It's like, hey, we're feeling this. We keep doing this. We just start doing it. Or, hey, we want this. Can we go for it? That's part of those signals. And one of the challenges with getting into awareness is discerning between it. So there's a little tool I use frequently to understand where I'm coming from. And I call it the light and heavy tool. It comes from a system called Access Consciousness. And light basically means true for you or yes for you in this moment. And heavy means no for you or false for you in this moment. It's a sensation in your body. Does this feel light to me? Does this feel heavy? It's a really easy way to start tuning into your own awareness and start decoding what's there. Because this is the other trick here, guys. We've gotten really good at understanding other people, at reading them, but we are terrible at reading ourselves. So we've got to learn our own language. How do I speak to me? We intrinsically already know it, but we're so bypassed on it, so programmed out of it, that it feels really foreign. But when we start leaning into it, we start to realize, I've known this all along. This is something innate. This is something within part of me. It's part of who I am. And I can lean into trusting it, and I can allow it to prove itself. That's the brilliance here, is it will prove itself. That's one of the reasons that I'm here, is because it's proving itself. It's one of the reasons people succeed in weird ways in their lives, because they're aligned with that path. They're aligned with them. There's like this invisible thread that we follow that reveals our own path to us. And that all starts with coming back and getting honest with what's in our awareness. Whatever's there. Am I sad? Am I empty? Am I lonely? Am I happy? Am I joyful? Am I tired? Am I confused? Am I angry? Am I hungry? Am I resistant? All of that. If that's in your awareness, you bring it in, you write it down. I am aware of that, I feel. And then we allow it to sit. We allow ourselves to listen a little more. And listening is hard. But listening basically means, okay, I'm going to write it down. I'm going to see what else shows up. And I'm going to write that down. I'm going to see what else shows up. And I'm going to write it down. You're going to want to analyze it. You're going to want to control it. That's normal. Write that down. Oh, this popped in my head, and now I want to analyze it. I want to figure it out and solve it. So, and your brain will start catching on and giving you more information. You'll become more aware of what's going on for you. That's the goal. And with that awareness and that honesty with your awareness, you're going to start finding answers. You're going to start finding direction. You're going to start confirming and affirming what you know. And then you can take the action you need to take. Because I know a lot of you are facing big choices right now in your world, especially around relationships. You're going to have to trust yourself in those choices. You're going to have to trust that it was the right and healthy thing for you. Because other people are going to say it's not. You're going to be gaslit. You're going to be attacked. You're going to be questioned. You're going to be doubted. And you need to build trust in your awareness as the authority to follow, rather than other people's points of view about your choice. This is how you get out of overwhelm, is to get honesty with what's in your awareness and start following your path and what matters for you in that space. So I'm going to read some comments here, see if there's any other ones. So, you're welcome, Armina. So Rita asks, what if a family member says mean things that are not true at all? Then they're not true at all. That's, yeah. I mean, you accept it. It's like, yeah, you're saying things that aren't true. That's what acceptance would be in that. So you can acknowledge it. And you can confront them if that's what is the light and honest option for you. And be like, hey, I want to talk about these things because this is what you're saying and this isn't what's going on. So I'm confused. What's happening here? That kind of thing. Hi, well, no, it's not kinesiology. Nope. We're not doing muscle testing. Light and heavy is a physical sensation in the body. It's somatic. It's not a muscle thingy. If I understand what you mean by kinesiology, but yeah, it's a sensation, not a muscle test. But yeah, people are going to tell you bullshit all the time, and sometimes when it comes to difference in points of view about events, somebody might legitimately feel like they're hurt by an action someone took. Then we need to understand that and acknowledge, I get that you feel hurt by that, and here's the context. I understand where you're coming from, and here's, can we talk about where I was coming from when you're ready? That kind of thing. We're going to build understanding in those areas. And some people are just convinced that a certain thing is a certain way until they feel validated and seen and heard in their position. So that can be pretty complex, especially with family relationships where people feel hurt. So that can have some real... Yeah, well, it's possible that if you're being bashed, you can confront them directly and say, hey, what's going on here? It's also important to acknowledge the context, because if this is an ongoing problem with the individual, then there's something larger going on. You may have to make different decisions about what to do with the relationship. So I need more context around that. Will asks that, well, if people are gaslighting you, if they're an entire group, you need to write down the context of what the gaslight is. And then you need to look at the physical situation. Who said what? Who did what? What were the agreements involved? What did I say? What did I do? What were the agreements involved in that? And then how do I feel about that? Because you can discern truth by identifying the agreements, choices, and actions and words said by everybody involved, and then you can paint the picture. But that's where you can start. Now, if they're interested in having a dialogue about the situation and coming to a better understanding about what's going on based on your point of view and theirs, because it may not even be, if it's not even gaslighting, it could be misunderstanding. You're going to need facts in order to back that up. Actual facts. So, yeah, if you got flying monkeys, send them back, because they're just enablers for the narcissist. But yeah, so when it comes to gaslighting, identify what was agreed to, what were the choices and actions made by the people involved in that agreement, and then you'll have the facts, and then you can confront it from that angle. If they don't want to listen to that, then you have your answer, because you can't have an honest and open relationship with people who gaslight you. Just as simple as that. Okay, guys, so be kind with yourself as you come back to your awareness. Be willing to acknowledge what your path is. Be willing to acknowledge when you're in other people's paths and get the hell out of those and get back to your path. Come back to your body, focus on your world. It's one thing with codependency is we're fixated on their world. Their world isn't important. It's not going to benefit you any. You need to come back to your world and start building relationships in your path from that space, so that you can have the things that you desire, because that's where you're going to find it. Okay? Appreciate you guys. Remember that you're worth knowing, loving, and keeping. We have like 8 days before the premiere of the Unmasking the Narcissist. That's my free masterclass on understanding the narcissist and what they do, what they want, and how to, in a way, respond or combat it and move out of it. And then how to heal from it. That happens next Wednesday, 6 p.m. Mountain Daylight Savings Time. That's -7 GMT time. And yesterday I made a post on my Facebook wall about a possible opening to the Get Closure Now system. I teach this every once in a while. It's my trauma healing technique. I prep you for the technique, then I take you through it. So it's a 4-week class where I prep you for it, and then we have a one-on-one session where I lead you through the process itself. This is not a training on how to do the process, because the closure technique is a facilitated process. It requires someone to do it with you. So this is a training class that preps you on how to restore safety to your nervous system and regulate it, build capacity for emotion, and then preps you for your experience through the closure technique. This is ideal for people who already have practice in feeling their emotions, are willing to feel the emotions, and that are looking for closure with a specific event or trauma in their world. So I'll be posting more information about that coming up. Okay, guys, I appreciate you. Be safe out there, and I will see you guys in our next video.